welcome to this session of showing you the newest features and improvements in Aligned Elements. We have been releasing Aligned Elements version 2.5 Service Pack 6. And we're very happy that you've tuned in here to see the new features because many of them have been requested by you. This meeting is going to be recorded and it will be available later on our website and on our YouTube channel. If you'd like to refer to this video to a colleague, or if you want to take a look at it later on. My colleague Anders Emrich is going to start out and showing you some of the new improvements that we've been working on. Anders, take it away.
So good morning, everyone. We're going to look at some of the changes that we've done in the upcoming version now. And one of them is a pure maintenance feature. Some of you already have seen what it's like to have multiple projects and keeping them kind of up to date with the latest and greatest. And we've added a possibility of managing all the projects at once. And I'm going to see if I can show you this in real life as well. So this is what it looks like. There's a new entry in the load projects screen when you just log into the web application called Manage Projects. And this allows you to list all of your projects. You can filter, you can look at different qualities or data of that project settings. So this is just displaying project settings for all projects at once. And some of them are editable and some of them are not. You will figure that out if you just click on the edit button. You can see that here we have some editing fields and we can set some similarities or differences between these projects. It's also a way to actually force template reload for multiple projects at once. If you've done template changes, then you know they affect 5 different projects. This is an easy way of going. Or if you do a version upgrade of Aligned Elements, there will also be an additional button here, which is saying upgrade projects. So back to the presentation. We've done a few usability features in the web client as well, and they're mainly in when working with document objects and chapters and things like that. So they're referring to drag and drop or navigation within the tool, or possibility of looking at this detail view also when in edit mode, and adding removing traces. So I'm going to give you a little preview of that as well. So I'm just going to come to my proper screen here. I'm going to return and I'm going to load a project. So the navigational changes, we have been a bit strict about that. You probably know that if you're in editing mode here and then you're deciding to navigate elsewhere, then it's not going to let you, but now it will, as long as you're within like the same kind of view. So here I have the possibility of looking at my design output while editing my user need in this example. And also in the editing mode, you can still have access to the detail view of that document object. In previous versions, that one kind of disappeared and it was not visible. Now, if you're not in editing mode, you have the possibility with these drag and drop targets here. They are for trace from, trace to, and attachments. And issues, you don't have the possibility, but there you can at least do it still from the action add issue if you want to do that. But that just means if we want to do a trace to here, I'm just going to get rid of my editing mode here just for fun and see if we can get some content in here. So I can pull any ID and drop it in that mode and the trace has been set. That's as easy as it gets, right? And for attachments, I can just pick any file that I may have. So I'm going to pick something funny from I have a text file here, wishes from my colleague, and just dropping that file on this gray area creates an attachment, and there you go. A bit easier to create these things. And maybe also a bit easier, if you want to remove a trace, you can just click on this checkbox and click remove, and it's gone. Instead of having to go to trace 2 and then uncheck and save. So a bit of usability things going on there. I think that's enough on that side. Something that we are really excited about is what we call positive cues. And this is a new feature which is switched on per configuration. And once again, going back to the application here, you can see that we have some new symbols appearing first here in when you open a design item for viewing, but also up here you see something ready, designed, and tested. So clicking on it up here in the list, then I see a little hint if it's been fulfilled or not. And what is it that has been fulfilled? Yeah, let's have a look. Ready to design is apparently something that is connected to our inconsistency systems. So if we look at the inconsistencies, it says has not been reviewed. And we've connected this symbol to has not been reviewed, and possibly also other inconsistencies. You can group inconsistencies to one positive cue, when you can name the positive cue whatever you want to. And you can also do this configuration all over the project. Just to give you an example here, if I go to the user needs, they have slightly different. Okay, there we have ready to sign and traced, and the other one was ready to sign and tested. So you can have different positive cues all over the project, and you can have any number of positive cues. It should be something that kind of communicates a certain state that is of importance to you. But we think that this is kind of going to help you highlight the inconsistencies or the meaning of these inconsistencies better to the normal daily user.
There you go. So it's fairly easy to see in a list like this. If I click on this positive cue tab up here, we can immediately target which one of all these user needs are not traced, and we can quickly then assess what we need to do with that. So we don't need to pull out a separate inconsistency list. We can connect it with these visible dots. I go over to something else here, like design input requirements. We can expand all and switched on the traced queue and see immediately these are the ones that we need to address, or these are the ones that we need to address. And this again builds on this technology that we have about inconsistency, so we're very proud of, and that we think come very handy in medical device development, because you want to know not only what you've done right, but also what you've done wrong, so you can assess and address that in a timely manner before you send in your documentation or when you prepare for an audit. And just to take it a step further, then, that we know that we can display these inconsistencies and you can view on them, but there hasn't until yet been any great way to address them immediately in the context of viewing them. And what we've done now is adding the possibility to, in different views, to immediately take action to address an inconsistency. So you will see this new take action buttons. And in this example, expecting a trace to a design output or a verification test case, we can just click this button, and the Aligned Elements will give you carefully curated options on what it thinks that you should do about it. And these options, these resolution options that gets available to you, depends on your rights into the system that you have, your permissions, and also the context, depending on the state of the project. So here I get the possibility to either generate a design output, or set a trace to an existing one, or generate a verification test case, or set a trace to a verification test case. So all the different inconsistencies has then, depending on your user and the current context in the project, different resolutions options available. So for some, for example, if something has not been reviewed, then the only available option is to basically add it to an existing or to a new review. And as you know, we have a large catalog of existing inconsistency rules available. and these are configurable. So this is something that we can help you set up, of course. And each of these inconsistency rules then have a number of curated resolution options available to them. And this inconsistency resolution feature is also connected to the positive Q tabs up here in at the top of the form. So you can actually click on one of these items, and we can see that it has a 1 here, meaning that it's not correctly traced, and we immediately then get the possibility to do what Aligned Elements thinks that you should do about it. So we hope that this will accelerate the way of addressing inconsistencies and getting rid of them, and instead of having to carefully review your design control data in order to prepare it for an audit or for submission. And we're of course very happy to get your feedback on this once it's out there and once you've tried it out. Is there anybody who has any questions about these features so far? Okay. So we talked about positive cues, we talked about fixing inconsistencies, and another thing that we've added is something called regulatory assistance. And for those of you who have been with us for a while, you probably know the term wizard, and this is something that we have renamed in the web client, and we now call them assistants. And assistants are available here at the bottom. And if you expand this session, again, this is depending on the configuration settings, but an assistant is a way, again, then, to accelerate and help you do things quicker in Aligned Elements. And there are essentially 2 or 3 different types of assistants. The first one is a generative assistant that will automatically add new design control items to your project. And I will make an example here. So here I have an assistant that is set up for adding potential hazards to a project. So if I click on this one, I get a view like this. It contains information about what this particular assistant does. And it says that if you use this assistant, we're going to add 74 generic hazards to this project. You click next, and you will then get a list of all the potential hazards that's going to be added in one swift go now. And if I click finish, Aligned Elements will automatically then populate your project with these hazards. So a generative assistant is then a way to quickly set up a new project, populate it with data that you choose from your assistant libraries. The other basic way of performing an assistant is a time of checklist. And I have an example of a checklist here. It's called a ready for verification checklist. We all know that when we enter the verification phase, there are some things that need to be up and running and be in place before we can start. And Aligned Elements will take you through, in this case, 5 check questions that you need to answer. So we go with the first question being like, are all the design items reviewed and approved? And you have additional information what this means and what you could do in order to achieve that state. And in this example, you can answer it with yes or no, or yes with a comment if you have small deviations. Going to the next question then, has the verification test been reviewed? And then going on, has the software tools and verification process been documented? So you probably already have checklists within your organization that you can now run through Aligned Elements. And this is a very simple checklist with just yes or no questions. And if I should then realize that one of the answer of one of these questions is no, then Aligned Elements will probably tell me that, or it should then tell me that you're not ready for verification. The outcome of an assistant is a report. So that's a new design control type. It's called assistant reports. And in this report will then be the collection of all the questions and answers that you've entered. And you can, of course, combine these 2 types of assistants. So based on a number of questions that you ask the user, we can then select which kind of objects do we want to import in your project or populate your project with. So another great way of just accelerating the way of working with the design control item, get your project up and running, and also add some regulatory rigor to your process. Wizards are available in our wizard library on our website, for example. But again, this takes some configuration effort, and please reach out to us if you are interested in this, and we'll take a look at it together with you. Maybe you have checklists running, maybe you have things that you want to import in each new project, and we can help you set that up. I'm going to finalize by talking a little bit about just a mixed bag of new features. Most of them, or many of them, are requested from you guys. So in the web client, there is now the possibility to immediately, using cut and paste, Control-C, Control-V, to paste images directly in rich text attributes and table attributes. There is also an expansion on the import side that if you have import data that doesn't 100% match your configuration, you will then have the possibility at the import end to map unknown data to known data. So that means that we have added some flex to the import functionality, so that you're not relying on an exact match between the import data and your current configuration. You can still make proper use of data that you want to import. And we have a number of signature improvements. And this is also have been requested from the users. One is to enforce the order of signing. So up until now, if you have 3 people that should sign off on a document, it wouldn't matter in which order they signed off, but some organizations are very strict with this, that signatures should be entered in a particular order, like the author first, and then the reviewer, and then the approver maybe. And that is now available, also available over configuration. And again, it might be when you set up your signature that you, at the time when you set it up, you don't know who's actually going to sign it. So instead of assigning a concrete name, you can assign a user group, and then anyone from that user group can sign off on that particular role. And of course, once he has signed off, his username will be resolved in the signature table, so you will see concretely who it was who signed off. But that is also then ordering some flexibility to the signatures. As a conjunction to what Anders said about just being able to manage multiple projects, we have added the possibility to add electronic certificates to all projects that a user belongs to with a single action, instead of having to add them project by project. Also something that was requested by the community. If you're familiar with the dynamic list attribute, this is a kind of an enumeration, like a drop-down list attribute type, but where the available values that you can select from is expanding. So if a value is not there that you want to select, you can add it on the fly. And previously this was done in the project settings, but now you can do it directly in the form, given that you have the proper rights. Two-factor authentication in order to increase security is now available in the web client. And for those of you who are familiar with test runs, when you assign users to test or you assign configuration to tests, that can be a bit tedious. So we have now added a batch function for this, so you can assign one user to many test cases at once, or one configuration to many test cases at once, just to improve the usability. Any questions at this point? All right, and in that case, I want to thank everyone for coming to this meeting, and I want to end this presentation with a little present, and that is a very special deal that has been worked out together with a usability company in Germany, in Stuttgart. They are called Using, and they have agreed on offering you, being Aligned Elements customers, Aligned Elements clients, a special offer, and that is to, together with them in a 90-minute workshop, perform a formative evaluation. So this is a great way of learning how to perform formative evaluations. You know that this is required in the usability standards. And here is your opportunity to learn from a usability expert team how to perform formative tests. And the really good thing with this is that they have agreed to do this on your specific product. So in this 90-minute workshop, they're going to take a look at your particular product, and they're going to do a formative test using a heuristic evaluation or a cognitive walkthrough. That's something that you can select on your product. And they will not perform the complete thing, but they will show you how it's done and how an expert is doing it, so that you can pick up on this and you can do it yourself. And as a result, you will also, of course, get the documentation of this. So it's not only how to learn about how a usability expert does formative testing, you can learn it too, but you also get the documentation for it. And you can optionally then document the results and the consequences in Aligned Elements, because some of these formative tests will, of course, create maybe then design changes or things that you want to look at or test, etc., being design controls in Aligned Elements. And they have agreed with us then to, if the customer wants to add these items or these artifacts to the Aligned Element configuration, so it can be used in the context of all the design controls. And this will be available between March 1st and April 30th. That's the typo. So from the beginning of March to the end of April, it will cost €4.99 for 90 minutes. And you will all receive a separate invitation per email on this. And I really hope that you will take this opportunity. I think it's a great chance, and they have been great to us using to agree on offering this to our clients. So that was everything from us for this release. You might have seen on the first slide that we said that this is for Service Pack 6 and 7. And the reason for that is that based on some user feedback, we want to issue a hotfix, and that's going to go out tomorrow. So there will be a Service Pack 7 tomorrow that has fixed some important, for a couple of narrow use cases, but still important. We feel that we want to fix them. We will add then a new service pack, which will be released tomorrow and will be available to you. And if you want to upgrade to the new version, then reach out to us and we will assist you with that.